7 here this morning. Let's move to our first story this morning. Man United are across all the back pages after their 1-0 win last night against Wolves in the Cup. Daniel Harris joins us. Daniel, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good, you're right.
We keep doing these stories where it's like, oh my God, it's reached the point now where surely something's going to happen and Solskjaer has to go, and then there's like 2 good results and like, another stay of execution. We're in this kind of weird interregnum where for every 2 bad results, there's 3 good ones.
Maybe. I think that ultimately, and I was thinking about this yesterday, if you gave any manager in the league his squad, where would United be? And I don't think they'd be very much higher in the league. They might have a few more points, but we are only talking about a few more points. Ultimately, I would say, and I keep saying this, that he made one significant error, I think, which was spending the Harry Maguire money on Harry Maguire and not on the midfield. But otherwise, the team are doing roughly what you'd expect them to do, and you can still see them improving, and they've beaten most of the good teams in the league also this season. So I wouldn't say, to me, I don't feel like he's particularly close to the sack, and I would definitely like to see him get a go at managing with a midfield before he gets sacked.
So you're essentially saying that he's as good as any other manager in the Premier League?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying other managers might have gone about getting the points in a different way. I'm just saying that if you gave Pep Guardiola a midfield of Fred, Matic and Mata, you would not see particularly coherent football, I don't think. And I don't think that is a particularly controversial thing to say. Of course, he's not as brilliant a coach of elite players as Pep Guardiola, and he doesn't have what Jurgen Klopp has either. But then, if you're comparing their careers, Jurgen Klopp was at Mainz for a bit, and Solskjaer is roughly at that period in his own career. So, an experienced manager, you've got to give them an opportunity.
Well, exactly, except that it's very rare that you get an opportunity at a club this size. I just think that coaching matters to the point where even with this squad, those managers will be doing significantly better because they're much further down the line in terms of understanding the shortcomings of players and being able to game plan around them and maybe not put them in the team, find somebody else to do it. If he needed to put Fernandinho back centre-back to make up for the fact that his centre-backs aren't very good, Pep Guardiola has the ability to coach a central midfielder to play centre-back at a significantly high level to be able to survive through that. I do feel that if Manchester United had a world-class coach, they'd be much further down the line right now, irrespective of what squad or otherwise they had.
I'm not sure. I mean, because you gave the example of Fernandinho playing centre-back. To me, I don't think that's necessarily been a masterstroke. Fernandinho has played well at centre-back. He's been excellent at centre-back. However, they've missed him in the midfield, and they've missed the ability to keep the ball away from the defence, which is what has characterised all of Pep Guardiola's teams. And then if you talk about the coaching, I think you're talking about probably different styles of manager. And whether Ole Solskjaer should be hiring an elite coach is a good question, and probably he should, because Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna might not be that. But Solskjaer is not himself doing, I don't think, that much of the coaching. He's more following the Ferguson model of the manager has words with particular players before particular occasions where he thinks it will be suitable, and he picks the team. But if we're talking about the coaching, looking at the Manchester United squad, has Marcus Rashford improved this season? Has Brandon Williams improved this season? Is Aaron Wan-Bissaka improving going forward? And those are just 3 questions, and the answer to me to all of them is yes. And it's going to sound like I'm saying that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the best possible manager that Manchester United should have. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying anything like it. What I'm saying is that he's hamstrung by the lack of a midfield, and I don't particularly think that any other manager would have United with loads more league points than they currently have. They're still in all the cups. So what actually are we talking about here? Well, so let's say they're going to appoint Mauricio Pochettino. Mauricio Pochettino is an excellent manager. I don't personally think that we've seen enough to tell us that Mauricio Pochettino is someone who, if he's available, you must go and get that man. And Barcelona didn't think that either, which is why they went and got a very different man. So I don't think that it's as clear that there's this outstanding candidate for the job who would definitely turn up and immediately revolutionise everything and do a better job. And you could look at Mauricio Pochettino and say he completely turned the club around at Tottenham, but when it came to making that final step, he proved himself to be incapable. He lost the league to Leicester, and then he lost the league to Chelsea when he had the best striker in the league, probably the best defence in the league as well, and he still managed to lose the big games. So Mauricio Pochettino is not the second coming of Alex Ferguson or Jock Stein or Bill Shankly. he's not shown that he is any of those things. So, I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer hasn't either, but the job that he's doing, to me, is not so bad that you would necessarily replace one with the other, but I agree that it's a fair conversation to be having. It's just not one that I feel I have a strong answer about at this point.
Okay, is it just that coaching ticket, and that includes the two guys you talked about there as well, because they're at stages of their career where they might end up being, Michael Carrick might end up being one of the world's great football coaches, but again, he's very, very early on in his evolution. You said you'd like to see him have a midfield before you make your judgment up on, or your final decision on whether or not Solskjaer is going to make it. It looks like he might get the opportunity to make it to summer, and then it's whether or not the board panic, or whether or not they, in the eyes of some Man United fans, make the right decision and get rid of Solskjaer at that point. So it looks like the stay of execution has at least lasted until the summer, and he will be the one who's preparing the transfer strategy for the summer.
Yeah, I mean, for me, with the other managers that have come subsequent to Fergie, I wanted rid of them when I ran out of hope, when it was clear that it wasn't going anywhere. And I guess with David Moyes, that was before he was appointed, because it was just so obvious that it wasn't going to go anywhere. But then with Van Gaal and Mourinho, I was happy to let them have a bit more time when it looked like there was a possibility of things still improving. And it was only once things looked like they weren't going to improve that you felt, okay, these guys need to go. Whereas with Solskjaer, you can see that things are still improving. United have started whacking the rubbish teams at home. They're still struggling away from home. They've been beating some of the better teams. They mentally look a little bit stronger now, so that although Manchester City stepped off in the second half of the League Cup game, and we can't pretend that they didn't, everything was there. All the excuses were there for United to collapse, and they didn't, and they managed to bring it back, and at least they now go to the second leg still in the tie. They're still in the Europa League. They're within 5 points of Chelsea, and we keep hearing about what a wonderful job Frank Lampard is doing. Well, why aren't Chelsea further ahead than United then, if Solskjaer is doing such a terrible job, given that Lampard has senior players who have done a lot more in the game than Solskjaer's senior players have. He has N'Golo Conte, for example. He has Cesar Azpilicueta, players that have been instrumental in teams that have won trophies, and yet they're only 5 points ahead of United. So in terms of the players that he's going to buy in the summer, he did a fair job. I thought he did a fair job last summer. Wan-Bissaka, I mean, I don't feel that required a lot of skill, spotting him as the best right-back that United could buy. Daniel James was an excellent buy and hopefully will improve. And Maguire, I have my doubts about, but Solskjaer must know that the midfield requires some work. He played in front of the greatest midfield in English football history. So what he really needs to do is he needs to be given the money and he needs to pick the right players. And who those players are is an interesting one, just because the quantity of players in world football who can improve Manchester United's midfield is so vast, and the choice is so cornucopic that picking the right ones on the one hand should be easy because any port in a storm, but on the other hand, the choice is so varied that it could be a hard thing to do.
You forgot to mention the most important strand to your argument, which is that Manchester City put out a full team against Manchester United last week and tried their best.
That didn't come over very well when he said that, I must say. But in the end, I hated that when David Moyes was saying it, but in the end, he was hanged by results, not by talking rubbish. And I think it was the point that Solskjaer was making was a fair one. He just chose bad words in which to make it. What he was saying was, we absolutely gubbed this lot the last time we played them, and ordinarily they would rest players in this game, but they knew they couldn't afford to do it against us. That is a better lot. That's the same sentiment, just delivered in a more confident, self-confident way. And but I mean, I subsequently saw Gary Lineker on Twitter saying that well, actually, it's not really true because he left out Jesus and he left out Aguero. But the reason he left them out was because of the way United beat City at City, and he wanted to play 17 midfield players to keep the ball away from United. And how United respond to that in the second leg, I've not a clue. I don't really think, with the players that they've got an answer to that tactic. So if I was Guardiola, I'd do exactly the same again. But in a sense, Solskjaer's point was fair. He just chose quite weak words in which to make what I think was a fair point.
Will Bruno Fernandes excite the Manchester United fans when it comes to their midfield worries?
I don't know, because I don't believe that very many Manchester United fans have seen Bruno Fernandes play more than about 3 times. Much as it is unfashionable to say, I don't have an opinion on that, or I'm not sure. I think that as many people have seen Bruno Fernandes play regularly as had seen Nicolas Pepe play for Lille before he signed for Arsenal. So what I would say about Bruno Fernandes is, personally, I am suspicious of him. His numbers are phenomenal. And given those numbers, the fact that he's still in Portugal at the age of 24 makes me slightly suspicious. And the second thing about Bruno Fernandes that makes me suspicious is his numbers are so good in terms of just goals and assists that if he's also a player who can help you control the game, and he's able to translate that to play in a better league and not in the best team in that league, then we're talking about one of the greatest players in the world. And how can you have a free run at one of the greatest players in the world at their peak? I don't get it. So I'm suspicious about Bruno Fernandes for those reasons. However, what I have seen of him is he can obviously shoot from distance, and he won't get the space to do that in England that he's been afforded in Portugal. But he's quick, he's aggressive, he's got a good touch. All these things are things that United need. As I said, what my concern would be is not really looking at his statistics, but just wondering if he's got the quality to translate what he's done in Portugal to a high level. I'm sure he won't score as many goals, but if he could score even half as many goals or 2/3 as many goals, then you're talking about a player. And the thing that United lack 2 things really, is against the good teams, they lack the ability to control the game, to keep the ball away from their defence. And is he able to do that? And against the less good teams, they lack the ability to create opportunities against a blanket defence, against a low block, I believe we have to call it these days. I would say he seems to me, based on the 2 or 3 times I've seen him and the YouTube highlights packages I've seen, that as long as the music that we're listening to is absolutely rubbish, he looks like he has the vision to pick holes in defences. I'm not sure whether he will help United dominate a game against a good team, but I'm absolutely certain that he's better than Jesse Lingard and Juan Mata combined. So that would be a start.
How do Manchester United play football at the moment? What is the shape of Solskjaer's ideal starting 11?
The ideal starting 11 is probably, well, the only real doubt is who plays on the right wing, but at the moment it's Daniel James. It probably will eventually be Mason Greenwood. And in midfield, his first 11 is probably McTominay, Pogba, and an attacker, whether it's Lingard or Mata or Pereira. And then
Fernandes. That's the role for Fernandes.
Yeah, if you sign Bruno Fernandes, it will be him. McTominay, Pogba, Fernandes, starting to look like some kind of midfield, because you've got McTominay, who's your box-to-box player, Pogba, who can do all the jobs depending on what he feels like doing, but he could be again, I feel like we have to call them by their numbers these days, the number 6, the number 8, or the number 10. And then you've got Fernandes, whose main job would be to prompt around the box. So you've got a good balance there. The problem, obviously, is that no one knows what's going to happen with Pogba, but he's not going to be back imminently. We know that. And McTominay is also not going to be back imminently either. But they've actually found all right workarounds, given that they've been without those players for quite a lot of the season. And we knew before the season, if either of those two got injured, United was shafted. They've actually found workarounds in that Fred has improved. That's another one that we're not allowed to chalk up to the coaching staff, but Fred has improved. Pereira's also improved. And these are not United standard players, or at least they're not players of the standard that United are trying to get to. We know that. But they've been doing enough to protect the defence, enough, not well enough, but enough, and to provide enough ammunition for the strikers to get goals at the moment. And United did have a big goal-scoring problem earlier in the season. They don't really have that anymore. So that, at some level, is testament to the way that the strikers have improved, perhaps the way that they've been told where to run, they've been developing a better understanding of how to play with each other, and the slight improvement. Fred's improved massively over the course of the season. As I said, he's still not that standard of player that you would want, but he's a lot better than he was 5 months ago, and that's significant.
All right, Daniel, we got to go. Thanks a million for joining us this morning.
No worries, I'll see you again.
That's Daniel Harris giving us some thoughts on the 1-0 win for Manchester United.